Donald Trump is now calling the FBI, quote, truly a cancer in our country. When I read it, I actually thought, Richard Nixon probably felt the same way towards the end there. He probably would have had a similar point of view about the FBI. The FBI is not an objectively perfect or even delightful organization. There's this really sort of complex dynamic that's developed where merely by defending the fact that the Trump-Russia investigation makes sense, you have some on the left attacked for haphazardly supporting such a dark institution as the FBI or the CIA and supporting every bad thing that every intelligence agency has ever done. So let's start at the obvious. The FBI is not objectively great as an organization. It is an intelligence, security, and law enforcement agency. It's part of the apparatus of so-called justice in the United States. It's run by people. People make mistakes. It has scandals. It makes errors. It's not infallible, is what I'm trying to say. But its mere existence in and of itself isn't the problem. Much like the existence of the House of Representatives isn't the problem. The problem is that much of the House of Representatives has been overrun by right-wing ideological lunatics. So the FBI is the FBI, and allowing the right to frame the FBI at a sort of institutional level as the problem is problematic. And allowing the left to be framed as blind, haphazard defenders of the FBI is also a problem because the FBI has done bad things. So that gets us to this week. Donald Trump did an interview with the Hill TV, Hill.TV, I guess it is. Donald Trump said during that interview that the FBI is, quote, truly a cancer in our country. He's framing the existence of the FBI and what it has done simply by carrying out its duties to be some kind of dereliction of their actual duties. And during this interview, Donald Trump presents what is really an alternative reality in terms of what the FBI is doing or should be doing. Trump said, this was all related to Trump-Russia. Trump said during this interview that the Trump-Russia investigation is, quote, one of the great scandals in the history of our country, using some of the same language that we've heard from Trump before and we've sort of become accustomed to. Trump said, it's a hoax beyond a witch hunt. Trump said during the same interview with the Hill TV, Comey was a bad guy. I actually think that the broader attacks on the FBI are nothing more than a distraction because they like to say, the FBI did bad things. Look at what the FBI did under Hoover. The FBI tried to get Martin Luther King to commit suicide. These are fair criticisms, right? Police departments do bad things. Militaries do bad things. But to use that as the explanation for why the Trump-Russia investigation is bad is a version of the genetic ad hominem fallacy, right? The FBI's Trump-Russia investigation is bad because the FBI once tried to get Martin Luther King to kill himself. Oxygen is bad because Hitler also breathed oxygen. Right now, the FBI is investigating real dangers to American democracy. You can say American democracy is broken. I'm with you. But the investigation is into very real things. Russia does this. They try to undermine democracy all over the world. They did the same thing in the United States. The only real check we have right now is the judiciary and investigations like this one that are being carried out by the FBI. This doesn't mean that the FBI is beyond scrutiny. This doesn't mean that the FBI and the CIA and our military, all of these institutions have done bad things in the past. But the problem isn't the FBI as an entity, which is the problem that Republicans claim to have. And by the way, if you need more proof of that, Republicans seemed fine with the FBI when it was investigating Hillary Clinton. It was fine when James Comey made the decision to come out and say, oh, you know what? We are going to take just another look into the Hillary Clinton stuff days before the November 2016 election. They're not at odds with the FBI, Pat. They're at odds with this investigation And Trump is trying to make it seem as though the FBI institutionally is the problem.
Yeah, and certainly Trump would have more credibility if all along, throughout his entire life, he was anti-FBI. Like if he called out the atrocities under J. Edgar Hoover or the Martin Luther King situation. No, he kept quiet about it his entire life. Only now that they're investigating him is he outraged about it.
You think Trump's keyed in on the issue of MLK and the FBI or the nuances of what happened under J. Edgar Hoover? You think that that's an area of expertise for Trump?
MLK did so many great things, and people now are starting to pay attention to it.
Oh, only now, right, exactly. We're only now figuring out what happened then. So this is, I know that most people in the audience don't need to be told this. Like, I get that most people in our audience understand that the criticisms of the FBI are, number one, not actually criticisms of this investigation. Like, a lot of us on the left have been criticizing these institutions for a very long time, but that doesn't mean that every single thing they do needs to be stopped or is problematic. So I know that a lot of people in our audience don't need to be sort of given that speech, but the double standard with which all of a sudden, systemically, the FBI is the problem is the truly laughable part. What do you think about this? I hope that you are following the David Pakman Show on Instagram at David Pakman Show, where we will frequently have polls about issues that come up on the show, like what's your opinion about the FBI and lots of behind the scenes pictures and much more. Follow the David Pakman Show on Instagram at David Pakman Show. You can also follow me at david.pakman. Check out pictures from my recent trip and much, much more. We will take a break and come back. We're going to talk about productivity, but it's not just going to be here's how many cups of coffee a day you should have. That is, Pat's doing a special about that some other day, and we'll hear all about his coffee drinking habits. That's not what the interview is about, though. It will be about productivity as a sort of institution that is now becoming popularized in the United States. Quick break, back after this. This episode is sponsored in part by BetterHelp.com/Pakman, which gives you access to a fully licensed and experienced psychologist or therapist through video, phone, and text. I know from the emails I get that in our audience, like in the broader world, there are people who are struggling with different issues in their lives, and many of them choose not to talk to somebody about it, either for financial reasons, for reasons of stigma associated with seeking out a therapist. And I think it's really important to do everything you can to get past that, because it's really important to talk to someone when you feel like that's the right thing to do. And what BetterHelp.com provides is, number one, the elimination of the stigma that could be associated with it. You work through video, phone, whichever method is best for you. You also will be able to save money compared to seeing an in-person therapist. And it is so easy to get started that I encourage you to go to betterhelp.com/Pakman. A few questions that you answer, which will get you paired up with a therapist that meets your needs. You can always switch to somebody else if you don't feel as though the match is a good fit. And it is something that everybody should have access to. Go to betterhelp.com/Pakman. It's easy to sign up. It's easy to get started. We've put a link in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And once again, that website is betterhelp.com/PAKMAN.